talking earlier about shooting different areas in the cabin. How does this affect the cooling in different areas versus just letting natural forces of the hot and cold, the raising cold air up through that whole aisle is possibly the top of the rack or the bottom of the rack? How does that affect these
By
cooling and even the top and bottom? Because in one case you're exhausting through the duct in the back and expecting the cool air rises from the floor and hits the top. You see any differential? Well, it's areas. What I guess sure. It's just my question is one of these philosophies better than the other, which performs better?
Well, what we're trying to do is actually lower the server running temperature and making sure it doesn't overload with the.
Oh yeah, I understand that, but which one? I guess the question is, do you have a preference? Which one have you seen better performance out of one of these scenarios or configurations over the other?
What we've seen on this is a cost savings of the crack unit, your overall load of power.
With the ducting?
With the ducting and the incoming at rate out of the air diverter is what we're calling it.
Okay.
This is an anemometer.
I go to
the floor tile. That vent.
I have
show this to you. Okay.
Full of
that's
RC.
in the cab. Well, good. Keep it there. This is the one out of the cab, or out of the floor. 61.8 degrees. Inside the cabin, 60.2. Okay, the airflow in the cold aisle was 457 feet per minute. Inside the cabin, 687 feet per minute. So we were over a degree colder in the cabin than the cold aisle.
That's at the bottom of the cabinet.
That's the bottom. That's the bottom of the cabinet. So we're basically still.
That's the bottom of the floor too.
Now that would be like going with cold aisle perf tile, where that would be. So instead of actually trying to get the perf tile in the cold aisle through that mesh front door, we're actually now bringing it right to the front of that equipment.
But all this equipment is designed to draw air through
Right.
the machine. So you can have some that draw more. If you had that at the bottom of your rack, is it going to take a lot more cold air before you can have a chance to get up there?
That's why we'll just pull it all in. So that's why we have a mesh front door on this as well.
Yeah, but also piece of equipment that's running cooler, the fans are going to center down something. They won't run as extreme to hold in air.
I see what you're saying. That was going to short circuit everything and short circuit the cabinet, the ones at the top.
Yeah.
Possible. I mean, there's many
So
different
you
ways
got
to
to think
manage
about
it.
that too when you're
Oh, right.
rack.
That's why we still use a fully meshed doors with this, and the pressure between the two of like the cold aisle and going through and having warmer temperature between the mesh and the equipment. We're actually just trying to get that temperature being colder than anything else.
No, I think the reason.
And it's a very simple, sorry John, it's zero cost to do that really, comparatively speaking of cranking up a crack unit or putting an in-row air conditioner or putting a whole cold aisle containment system or a hot aisle containment system as we're seeing in Europe is actually opposite what we're seeing the trend is here, containment-wise.
What's that?
They're containing the whole hot aisle. Cold aisle, whatever they're doing, yeah, they want to do a cold aisle containment. It's opposite of the trend that we're seeing here. And I've been asked to make both already to where I have to make the sliding doors on both sides. But then you also don't. Europe is actually directly opposite of all the other manufacturers that we're seeing stateside.
One of the things that Bill hit on earlier in the PowerPoint is the temperature differential that occurs between your mesh. You have the 3 to 5 degree barrier. It will be warmer inside of the enclosure. One of the reasons that the diverter works well is because of that resistance that you meet between the mesh and the front of your enclosure equipment. It does not allow the air to go out. But the reason that we still use mesh as opposed to a plexi is redundancy. If for some reason there was an obstruction that should block a diverter or something, or if you have a blade server that's drawing, 2000 CFM, fans went insane, and it's cutting off the top third. It can still draw through that mesh. And if you maintain, a 70-degree ambient air temperature, the ASHRAE TC 9.9 spec, you're still well within. Your delta's going to be good. Your equipment's still going to be safe. It's something that you can obviously go back and change after the fact, but you're not going to run into equipment failure due to a short circuit by,
There's no one
high
product,
CFM
there's no
equipment.
one method, because every rack is different. Every rack has a different load, every rack has a different layout. So that's where, the manager is being a true manager rather than just worrying about software. You got a whole infrastructure to worry about, a whole cooling system to worry about, things of that nature. So there are, we're seeing it. Yes, sir.
I have a point to make. We've had like a cold aisle, and I had one kind of equipment on one side and a different kind of equipment on the other side of the cold aisle. And the one group of equipment would rob all the cold air out of that aisle, and the other side was recirculated.
I've seen it. We've seen where some of the exhaust actually blows so much out through the cabinet. The CFM with the one model we've done went through the mesh, hit the other cabinet across the aisle.
Yeah.
It actually was recirculating even around that,
Yeah,
to where you could actually, 3 feet away through the mesh, you can still feel it. It's amazing. So some of them are, like I said, you have to watch out.
And to your point, we've seen too, where a cabinet, we have a lot of blade servers in it, and it took all the cold air and
It takes all the
starved
cold air.
everything around it. In that case, they designed it to put networking equipment near it. I mean, it was pulling well over 2,000 CFM in cold air. And, cooled out, I think these numbers are close, but the air coming out of per floor tile is roughly 6 feet a second. So if you say 1,001, and that cold air is going up. Those servers just can't capture that air that quickly. So the air diverter does put it closer to where the intake is, as opposed to you trying to draw it from here to here. But, yeah, definitely we've seen a cabinet starve everything around.
And that's something I think some of the hardware vendors actually do a disservice to the IT people by promising us a blade cabinet that is just stacked 44 RU tall, just full of blades. The CFM draw on that, put into any row, is just going to cannibalize all of the free air around it. And it's the one thing that when we go in and try to reevaluate efficiencies for facilities is if we see that scenario, we usually recommend migrate. You don't need all your blades in one spot. It would be nice in a perfect world. But if you can balance that out with lower CFM equipment, you can really, really improve a lot of efficiency. If you see 30 to 40% improvement just by reducing the amount of crack you need to force air to that one monster cabinet with all the blades in it. So the load balancing works incredibly well.
So we all need one of those.
Well, I typically,
Yeah, those are perfect.
I carry just a simple heat gun with me everywhere, and I was just actually in their data center just going through the form as well.
Well, that's a demonstration.
Exactly. And typically I'm surprised I don't have it in my bag. So and then you can address anything right there. So it is an issue. More than you think. Well, with Cisco, some of the side-to-side airflow is also an issue. Special considerations have to be addressed with airflow and cable management around it.